I'm going to show you something really interesting, and it's how the new corporate banking cartel governments of the world rely on and depend on our stupidity in order for them to get their assumed consent to operate over and above us. It's like a system where we become trustees or servants or slaves of their foreign banking cartel corporation. And what they say is that we are voluntary slaves, or voluntary servitude they call it. And voluntary servitude is the agreement to act as a slave. So it's a system, because a lot of us say in this new corporate system they can't understand how they have become subject to all these draconian laws. Farmers losing their lands, manufacturing in Australia has been decimated, the fishing industries, and like I say, the footwear, the clothing, all industries in our country have been destroyed and are in the process of being destroyed through policy that is a destructive policy that really leaves our nation floundering on an international scale. Now, this is all sort of planned in the Agenda 21 and the Agenda 30 thing, But tonight, I'm going to show you one of the dirty tricks that they have used and deceived us as people, nationals of our own country, and rendered us as citizens of a foreign corporation that is usually subject or registered to the United States Securities and Exchange Commission in Washington, DC. So by becoming a citizen of the Commonwealth of Australia and the states such as State of Queensland, State of Victoria, State of New South Wales, etc., when we enter into citizenship of those states are registered corporations on the United States Securities and Exchange Commission in relation to the US Federal Reserve within Washington, DC, which is the District of Columbia, which changes your standing, your legal standing and your political standing from being a national of Australia or a citizen from your own districts here in Australia to a citizen of a foreign district. And the reason how they do that is they just simply call the corporation or the company or the entity or the organisation Commonwealth of Australia. But of course, when you check, as you can see here, it is written in an all uppercase text, which is a hieroglyphic or Egyptian hieroglyphic text, and it is not English, not at all. So that's the first trick, by using a debased language, and which we've in past videos I've gone into this debased language when they're using it. But there's another really interesting trick that they use to get you to fall for this for their scam, their pyramid system. And look, they've got, in one way, they've got a point, because they've got approaching 7 billion people on this planet, which is 2018. And their story, or their reason for this, is that they need to control the masses through a military system, which means that when you're in the military, you don't have rights, you have a privilege, but you break the rules of that military ship, or that military organisation or corporation, and you are subject to the penalties that are already put in place, which really means that you're not subject to a fair trial or justice. It is, if the higher ranking officer says you did something wrong, then you have done something wrong, according to them. The accusation, it's not an accusation, it's a charge. They've bypassed the accusing bit where you have the right to go to a court and defend it. They give you that, it's justice is seen to be done, but in actual fact, once you've been charged, the accusation has been assumed already, and then you have to fight that charge. And to enter into that system, you have to agree to be the citizen of their ship, you see. And once you agree to that and hold that birth certificate of their ship or their corporation, their foreign corporation, that's called Commonwealth of Australia or State of Queensland or State of Victoria or whatever, once you hold that birthing certificate of their foreign District of Columbia, then they can say, well, you applied for it, so therefore you agreed to enter into the ship and leave your own country. So therefore they call it voluntary servitude, where you agreed to enter into their foreign military ship, even though they called it Commonwealth of Australia and wrote it in debased Latin. The full disclosure, people say, there's no full disclosure, but it is. The full disclosure is in the grammar, because when you know your grammar, you can look at the company and know it's not reading what it's assumed to be read. Remember, that law is a presumption of law. And the presumption, there's an old maxim that says the fact negates the presumption. It overrides or overrules the presumption. So the very minute a fact is recognised, then the presumption is no longer there. You have to think about some of these things sometimes, because a man is born, but he has the option of two births where he wants to dock his body through the dockmaster, which are the doctors who they can dock you into life and you're not dead until you've been docked out of life. But you have a choice of two births, the birth of the debtor and the birth of the creditor. That's your choice. Now, it starts with the birthing certificate. That's sort of where it all really begins. So when you get to 18 or whatever and you want to go and get a bank account and a driver licence or anything, but usually it's a bank account. And they say, well, you'll have to go and apply for a licence. You'll have to go and apply for a birth certificate. So you say, yeah, okay, I'll go and do that. So you walk into the courthouse, which is really, these days, before we go on with this story, birthing certificates are now housed in Australia in the CBA building at 180 Ann Street. The CBA building is the Commonwealth Bank of Australia building. All the birthing certificates were taken out of the government printing office at 110 George Street, which sure is already one evil-looking building, as you can see here. The satanic symbols on this building are telling you something. But as you can see with the new building, it also houses a modern form of satanic symbolism. That's the snake or the vine that is on the building. And that comes from the old Roman god of Libor, which is the Roman god of wine, and the vineyards, which is the vines that creep through everything and attach themselves. A vine can't stand on its own legs. It has to be supported by something else. So back to our story. You walk into the court. Say, sir, you walk into the courthouse at the counter downstairs, wherever it is, and so I'd like to apply for a birth certificate. And I said, yes, by all means. We're going to need your name and your date of birth. And this is where it all starts. I say, what's your name? And you'll say, my name is John Henry Doe, which is really the Christian name and your surname attached as one name. That's what you will say. So they say, yes, no worries. Then you will say, they will ask you for your date of birth. So you will make another error and you will say, my date of birth is the date I was born. They say, yes, not a problem. So when you give the full name that included your surname or your last name, and you gave the date of birth that included your date of born, they give you this document here, which is called the State Birth Certificate. And you will walk out with that, and you'll take that around to the bank and say, look, I got my certificate. and they will know exactly what to do with that certificate. Because the information on this certificate gets this certificate. Now, when I went in and applied for my birth certificate, I did the same thing. I walked in happy as ever. Hello, how are you? To the girls at the court. And they said, yes, what can we do for you? And I said, I would like to apply for a birth certificate. And they said, well, we're going to need your name and your date of birth. And I said, yeah, no worries. So they said, well, what's your name? And I gave my name. That is, on the birth certificate, the state birth certificate, it says here, in this case, this is William Vaughan Izard, if he gave his full name. But on the birth certificate, and on yours, and on everybody's birth certificate, the only name that exists on this is William Vaughan, which is John Henry, the Christian name only. It is no surname attached to that name there. The surname is attached to your father and your mother. They have surnames, but you don't. So remember that. This is the evidence that your name is only, in this case, William Vaughan. In my case, Romilly Stewart. In the general trend, John Henry, not Doe. The John Henry name is there. So that's something that you've got to think about when you give your full name. Because if you give your full name as John Henry Doe, they will give you this. So I gave my full name. Would you like my full name? I said, yeah. I said, yes. They said, yes, we want your full name. I said, my full name is exactly what's on the birth certificate here, Romilly Stewart. I did not enter the John Henry Doe. I just entered the John Henry. So they didn't do anything. They just, yep, have you got a date of birth? Now, it's very interesting because the word date is the key to this scam. Because the birth is the creation of an office, the birth of an office, or the birthing of a ship, the birthing of a corporate entity, the birthing of a corporation, an entity of some kind, an organisation. The date that is birthed, the date of registration of that, is the date of birth. So the word date refers to the date of the acknowledgement of the deed, and not the day the thing itself was created. So where you would have given your full name as John Henry Doe and your date of birth as the date you were born, I gave the Christian name and the date that it was registered up here. See that? That's the date of registration. That's the date that this certificate was stamped and entered into the court. On the certificate of birth, it has this information because it has in this box up the top here, name, which is the full name of the child, which is William Vaughan, the date he was born, on the 22nd of April in 1953. But down here, it says the date of registration, which in this case, it was 8th of May 1953. So it was around a month after, a little over 1 month after, where this certificate
Sorry, guys. I thought I was unmuted. Well, welcome in. Thank you for joining me today. I will play that video on the remaining lives. I'll show that video as I go with every live so you guys can see the rest of the video because it's kind of long. But he's speaking from the point of view of people who were born in the United States and also from the point of view of people who came here and are naturalized. And he's breaking down how they created corporations by joining our names and getting the days that we were born, like birthed in like a ship and things like that, so that we can get that warehouse receipt copy of our certificate of live birth. And when they register us with the courts and create a corporation. So I will be showing that video in full in segments in the next live next Wednesday, and then the following live after that, because the video is pretty lengthy and I don't want to take up too much of your time. So thank you for joining me tonight. I'm going to try to get through this as quick as possible and break down things to make you guys understand even more. Before I begin, please tap that like button so this video can get out to more people. Share it with somebody who needs to hear this. Subscribe to this channel if you want to learn more about this process, because the more you know, the more you grow. And I believe that if you're new to this, you need to learn the backstory first before you start just filing paperwork, because it can be dangerous when you don't have the proper knowledge. And you also don't want to rely on anyone else's knowledge to get you through this process. You want to know. When you know things, you have confidence. So let's get straight into it. We're going to be talking about laws versus statutes. What's the difference? Let's figure this out together. Disclaimer: the information presented in this presentation does not belong to me. I am not the creator of it, and I do not own it in any way. I'm a private being that has studied various U.S. laws, codes, statutes, and Admiralty maritime jurisdiction. I am not and never would be a lawyer, legal aid, or attorney. This is not legal advice, but it is lawful. I have executed many processes for myself. The info included in this presentation should be fact-checked before executing anything. Anything you execute is at your own risk, and that alone. Studying and learning as much as you can about this process is advised, because the more you know, the more you grow. I'll always say that. I wouldn't know as much as I know if I didn't do this for myself, if I did not do the studying. I watch a lot of people's videos. I heard their perspectives and their standpoints, and I respect a lot of people who are speaking on this topic. However, I cannot use their knowledge for my own. I cannot say, that I've actually been able to obtain a whole lot other than me actually going and doing the work for myself. So I respect those people that are teaching this and helping those who want to learn. But if you're new to this, I am here for you. I am here to make this make sense for you, for new people. So let's just jump straight into it. What is the law? The law is the common law, and it is the foundation of justice for living people. Laws serve all people equally. Laws defend our unalienable rights, provide reparations to the injured, and through them, we can live in peace and harmony with other people. The law is the definition of the people's power and is common sense. The law protects living people from harm, loss, and fraud. So when people don't really know the difference between laws and statutes, I'm going to be giving you guys the play-by-play of why they are different. What are statutes? Statutes are the enactments of the legislature that apply to publicly registered legal entities as franchises of the public state. Statutes offer limited privileges and benefits to artificial persons of various kinds, prescribing contract, rules, and regulations by consent. Statutes can have the appearance or color of law. Statutes govern legal entities as a franchise benefit to the public state. Statutes are not laws. The law is from the people. Statutes are from the state. Hence the words statute, state sound kind of familiar, right? Maxim of the law. Legality is not reality. So anything that's created is a creation of the state or creation of another man is not a reality. It is something that they created. It is something that is put together on a piece of paper. The difference between what is lawful and what is legal is a matter of life and death, literally. What is lawful is for the living people. What is legal is for the dead corporate entities. So when you hear them say things are illegal, they are only illegal if you are a dead corporate entity. If you are going by the corporation name that was put together, your first and middle name put together with your last name, that's when you became a dead corporate entity. Legal equals fiction. Statute equals statute. Legislation equals leg of a statute. Act equals act of a statute. Keep that in mind. This is very important for you to know, especially if you are dealing with legal matters right now. Popular sovereignty. All private sovereign men and women are de jure in law. All public servants in corporate roles are all artificial legal entities, and all artificial legal entities are de facto in practice. The government is divided into three branches. You have legislature, which enacts statutory legislation, prescribes rules and regulations for legal entities. Statutes can have the color of law. This is the only time that the color of your skin really matters. This is the truth. So us walking around calling ourselves crayons is because we have been brainwashed to think that way, according to legal statutes, legislation. So color of law, this is where you go into your Black's Law Dictionary and look up the definition of black, which means civilly dead. Then you have executive, which is cabinet and departments, and manages the government to serve the people. Executives take oath executives take oath to uphold the law. However, they don't. And then you have judiciary, which is administers de facto statutes. You hear that? De facto, in practice, statutes. Okay? Facilitates de jure common law trial by jury when the people create new case law. The people's common law. The people's common law power of justice is judicial and exercised lawfully, which is trial by jury, whereas the state's delegated duty of management is executive and exercise legally legislation. So they all work hand in hand to get their point across. Now, this is a separation of powers. I don't know if you guys remember this from school, but this is what we were taught in school. And in the United States Constitution, there are three branches of government that make, enforce, and interpret laws. Under the separation of powers, each branch of government has a unique function. Below shows the different branches, their main functions, and example federal roles. At the right here, we have legislation, the legislative branch, which passes, changes, and repeals laws. And they are the House of Representatives, the Senate. Okay. And then you have executive branch, which carries out laws, runs government day to day, which would be the president. And then you have the judicial branch, which interprets laws and settles agreements, which is Supreme Court, which is where all sovereigns handle their rights. This is where they go to fight for their rights. Chancery court and things like that handle those kind of things. So the judicial branch deals with those type of things. However, when under statutes, they all work hand in hand to get their point across. Most people that go to Supreme Court that know their stuff win, just like the whole right to travel thing. There's so many cases that are in favor of those people who fought for their rights and knew their shit. That's why it's important to know this. So nobody, like I can tell you how to do stuff, but you still wouldn't know how to enforce it. And you had to come back to me and rely on me to tell you what to do next. So it's best for you to take the time and study these things so that when you start moving in a certain way, you know, if this don't work, I can do this, because a sovereign knows how to handle their affairs and they're not incompetent. They don't need someone to do for them. So it's important for you to take some time out of your life and actually make this a serious thing that you want to know and study these laws, these statutes, these codes. You got to know this stuff. It doesn't matter what I know. It's about how like I said, I can make a video giving you every step of how to do something. And if you don't know, you still would not know what to do or how to enforce it when it came time to. You still will come back to me and ask me what to do next. And in this game, sometimes everything doesn't work as it's, somebody tells you. It might not work directly the same way as I say. It depends on the person that you're dealing with. It depends on the corporation that you're dealing with. It depends on how the judge is feeling that day, right? So you have to know how to maneuver and function in every avenue. If something on this option don't work, okay, because I know my shit, I can go to this. All right, the judge want to play hardball. I know my shit, so I'm going to do this. So it's all based off of your own knowledge, and what you put in is what you get out. More about statutes. Statute types are acts, bills, and legislative instruments, and they apply to artificial legal legislated persons, so their text never refer to living man or woman. Statute titles never end with the word law. public officials habitually refer to acts as laws, but an act is not a law. Example, the Land Transport Act is not titled the Land Transport Law. Okay, so there are many acts, and I'll even be telling y'all about some of them. Like the Smith-Hughes Act, right? That was passed with the school system and stuff like that back in I think it was the early 1800s or the mid 1800s. These acts, the Bill of Exchange Act, the Stamp Act, these are not laws. So they do not trump the Supreme. Okay? So this is why it's important for you to know the acts, the statutes, the codes, and the laws, because the laws always trump those acts, statutes, and codes. There is a natural compulsion to obey the law because it safeguards our living rights and freedoms. If we do not honor the law, then it cannot afford us protection. However, obeying statutes is voluntary. We are members of the legal society as a matter of choice. Our consent is given unilaterally, not collectively via a government election. I meant to say unilaterally, excuse me. In a truly free nation, men and women in the common law jurisdiction would give their consent freely to obtain the commercial privileges and benefits offered by the state in the Admiralty Maritime jurisdiction. And that's what we do when we have our babies in the hospital, like the guy was explaining at the beginning. He wasn't really saying in the hospital, but still, it's all the same. But when we have our babies in the hospital, we think, because we've been programmed to think, that we had to sign those birth certificates and those affidavits. But to be able to have your baby in their federally funded public facility called the hospital, you got to follow their rules. You got to sign their contracts, and their contracts tell you that you have to do that to have your baby in their facility. But who said that we couldn't have our babies at home? Your doctor, who gets paid upwards of $30,000 for you to have a baby in their facility. They don't get the whole 30,000, but you get what I'm saying. They work for the corporation, so their whole guise is to protect the corporation and not you. So we believe we have to have our babies in their facilities. We have our babies in their facilities, and we sign these contracts unknowingly. It doesn't matter. We still gave our consent. So it is a matter of choice. Like Kanye West said, slavery is and was a choice. And people got offended because they thought about the slavery that they were brainwashed to believe with whips and chains and starving and raping. But that is not the true slavery. The true slavery is paper slavery. And we have enslaved ourselves on paper. We must be aware that the state has been incorporated to serve the debt money system of bondage. So the people are not offered de jure common law contracts serving the state, but de facto Admiralty Maritime contracts serving the banks as surety for debt. If corporate statutes become onerous to the common good, the people have a right to withdraw their consent in order to defend their rights. And indeed, they have an obligation and a duty to do so because only the people can redress the corporation of the corruption of their government. And the sad reality is when you talk to the masses or the majority, they don't believe that this is true. You know, so many people have negative things to say. The government and the school systems have done such a good job at taking people's mind from them and implanting theirs in them. So it's a lot of bots walking around calling themselves humans, and they don't even know how to use their own brain. And they just regurgitate, and believe that it is illegal to travel without a driver's license. But they don't realize that there's a difference between driving and traveling, right? Driving is commercial, traveling is private. That's a private right. It's a law, not a statute that was created by the DMV that says that you have a privilege to drive. You don't have a privilege, you have a right. Only citizens have privileges. Truth is, statutes are contracts. Statutes prescribe the terms and conditions of commercial contracts, relying for their effect upon your consent. This is why we always got to get into some type of contract that is guised as an application or registration, which is nothing more after we sign it than a trust contract that ties us to the debt and makes us be debtors, taxpayers, owing to the bank, owing to the English Crown Trust. According to Bouvier Law Dictionary 1856, instrument definition is contracts. The writing which contains some agreement and is so called because it has been prepared as a memorial of what has taken place or been agreed upon. The agreement and the instrument in which it is contained are very different things, the latter being only evidence of the existence of the former. The instrument or form of the contract may be valid, but the contract itself may be void on account of fraud. And I already explained the parts of a contract so that you can know if your contracts are null and void or not, which most of them are. There are certain things that contracts must have by law, not statute, for the contract to be a valid contract. However, many of those elements of a contract are not even there. So most of our contracts that we are under are null and void. So if you haven't seen that video, go and check it out. I have a whole lot of videos for beginners so that you can learn this on your own. I break it down where it makes sense and you can move from there. Like I always say, if you need the free information, I do give out free books and I give a whole information package out to anybody who asks or requests it. All you got to do is email me at divinetrustbabies07@gmail.com and request the free information and I will give it to you. It's free information for anybody who wants to do this. You can go and study this yourself. I'm just making it where it is a little easier and more understandable by not using so many legal words, legal terminology, legalese. But I also talk about how that is a whole thing in itself as well. So if you haven't watched any of my other videos, go check them out. They're all in order, and it makes sense for all of the newcomers to learning about this because we need to wake up. It's us that's going to put a stop to this system. It's nobody going to come dropping out the sky and save us. Now, here's the difference between statutes and acts. On the blue side, we have statutes and acts, and on the other side, we have the law. So let me go through it. So on statutes and acts, the legislator makes statutes by the enactments of legislation. Statutes are the state's legal contracts prescribed in advance as legal fiction. Acts, bills, legislative instruments. Acts are contract offers made effective by the informed consent of a man or woman. Act, civil law, contracts. This is from Bouvier Law Dictionary, 1856. The definition of act is civil law, contracts, a writing which states in a legal form that a thing has been said, done, or agreed. Statute, again, in Bouvier Law Dictionary, 1856. The written will of the legislature, an act of the legislature. This word is used in contradistinction I've been reading all day, I'm sorry, to the common law. It is a general rule that when the provision of a statute is general, everything which is necessary to make such provision effectual is supplied by the common law. Okay, and then on the yellow side, we have the law. The law is the people make the law by the acceptance or validation of jury decisions. The law is the people's common law, recorded in real time lawmaking as case law. Laws are moral customs made effective by the conscience of the people. Law, according to Bouvier's Law Dictionary 1856 definition is, when considered in relation to its origin, it is statute law or common law. Again, Bouvier's Law Dictionary 1856 says law is as a compound adjective. Common law is understood as contrasted with or opposed to statutory. Okay, and that comes from Black's Law Dictionary, 2nd edition. We have law common. The common law is that which derives its force and authority from the universal consent and immemorial practice, of the people. Okay, Bouvier's Law Dictionary. Back on the statutes and acts side, we have the word legal, and that's the undoing of God's law. That comes from Encyclopedia Britannica, a dictionary of arts, sciences, and general literature, the R.S. Pill 9th edition from 1893. Statutes govern legal entities as a franchise benefit to the state. We are not all equal under this statutes and acts in the text of statutes. The reason why is because it's the color of law. Remember, I told you the only time that applies is in their system, their legal system. This is why you call yourself black, white, yellow, green, and all other colors of the crayon box. Okay? Because you've been taught to have that mindset in their school systems. We are not equal, again, in the text of statutes. Statutes are based on practicalities. Statutes can quickly come and go. Legal refers to legislation. Look at the words. Couple of letters removed and replaced, and it's pretty much the same thing. The legislature cannot overturn case law. Statutes can serve the law, but cannot diminish or expand the law. Non-positive law, statute not serving the law. Color of law, which is misuse of authority within right. De facto, which means in practice. Now, on the law side, we have the law of nature. The law of nature is that which God, the sovereign of the universe, has prescribed to all men and women by the internal dictate of reason alone. And that comes from Bouvier's Law Dictionary of 1856. The law protects the people from harm, loss, and deceit, excuse me. Hold on one second. We are all equal in the eyes of the law. Laws are based on principles. Laws evolve over time and often endure. Excuse me, I cannot read today. Laws evolve over time and often endure. They do. Lawful refers to the law. A jury of people can overturn a statute. Laws can be taken into statutes, but if repealed in statute, they remain in law. Positive law is the statute serving the law. Moral law is principle of right living, and de jure means in law. Then we have again on the Statute and Act side, it's under Admiralty, Maritime, Commercial, Law of the Sea, Foreign International Jurisdiction, okay? It is on the banker side, the British Crown. Profit and dispute and statutes are artificial. They are legal, and a legality is not a reality, okay? It is a creation. On the law side, we have the people's common law, which is the law of the land, sovereign national jurisdiction, which is people in peace, and the law is living because the law is from the living man or woman, not the corporations. I hope that makes sense. Again, if you want to request free information with books and everything for you to begin your studies, just shoot me an email at divinetrustbaby07@gmail.com, and I will gladly send you a big old email full of stuff to help you to begin your studies. Because I really believe if you're new to this, the only person that can teach you this is yourself. You can listen to people's teachings and, get insight on their knowledge, but you still need to have your own regardless. So you still need to go and read up and learn things on your own. If you like the way I present this information, consider joining my private community where I share more information and I do monthly study sessions, sometimes weekly. Right now we're doing weekly study sessions. So if you would like to get into, a community that can help you further your studies, then you can become a patron at patreon.com/divinetrustbabies. If you want to learn how to do the processes with example support instructions and a private Telegram group, you can join my DTB Academy at divine-trust-babies.trainercentralsite.com/course/divine-trust-babies-academy. If you want to access my past study sessions, you can do so by going to divine-trust-babies.trainercentralsite.com/course/study-session-replays. Or if you just like to purchase content and courses, you can do that at linktr.ee/divinetrustbabies. All right. And I go live every Wednesday at 5:30 p.m. Pacific time, 7:30 p.m. Central time, and 8:30 p.m. Eastern time. If you'd like to join my lives, turn on post notifications, please like, share, subscribe, comment, help this information get out to all the newcomers, because there are so many people teaching you all the steps of what to do and how to do this and how to do that. But in my opinion, and from my own experience, Learning this for yourself is most important. So for anybody that's new to this, I'm here for you. I am here for you, okay? Sorry about that. Got to click back through. And I want to just thank you guys for watching this presentation and being here with me. Like I said, I will share the rest of that video throughout the coming weeks and presentations because it's a lengthy video, but I'll also be discussing more about it. And I will see you guys next Wednesday. Thank you for joining me. Please don't forget to like, share, subscribe, comment, and help this page grow to help someone else.